So anything you say now will be recorded forever?
Will be used against you in the court of law. All right.
Okay, John. Well, I guess you have the floor. I have a bunch of stuff as usual to present, so whenever you want to let me loose, that's
All
fine.
right. Yeah, we'll get started here. So welcome, everybody. Just wanted to catch up and have an update meeting here on some things that are going on. So I appreciate everybody taking their busy time out on Saturday here to join us. The first thing that I wanted to do, because I wanted to get, I've had a number of emails and some conversations about the status of the Capitol Audio Fest. So Paul has kindly joined us to, and I want him to update us up front here, what's going on with CAF. I know it's quite a few months away, but still there's a lot of curiosity out there just about what the status is as of this point. Paul, take away. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Well, yeah, I talked to Gary quite often, but I chatted with him first thing this morning just to make sure I have all the facts right. CAP is going ahead as if everything is going to be fine. It's all depends on the state of Maryland. I mean, all the large rooms are rented. About a good portion of the small listing rooms are either have been rented or reserved. So they are going forward. Gary met with the hotel just this past Friday, I think. And, you know, the hotel is basically empty. The restaurant's not open yet, only the bar a couple of nights a week. Absolutely not a soul in the place. He could only find 2 staff people to talk to. But we're a number of months away. Right now, the state says you can't have a meeting from more than 25 people. Obviously, that won't work for CAF, but we are a number of months away, and if everybody gets vaccinated and if the young people will wear masks and keep from screwing around, then our numbers will go down. Hopefully the state will open up, but it's solely dependent on the state. The state has got to say, yes, you can have a meeting. I don't know. I mean, the agreement that Gary has with the hotel is if the state won't allow it, then he is not liable, and there will be no audio show this year. I mean, if you talk to Lou Hinckley and Gary about Pacific Audio Fest, I mean, that's the next show coming up. Everything is going forward. Everything right now, they are ramping up to have a show. But it all depends. You know, our numbers in the state of Maryland are not good right now. Paper this morning said we have more new cases per day than we had in February. This has got to, you know, it's got to, the numbers have to come down before something like a convention type or a large meeting can ever happen. So that's where it's at now. He's positive about it. We can only, you know, he has told all his vendors that their money is safe. He will return their money. The vendors that have paid, the vendors will get their money back. He's not going to do the ex-Phono thing and keep their money. Yes.
What's the go no go date? Because, you know, if the state says meetings are good and they do it like 2 weeks before, that's probably not enough time to get everything organized. So does Gary have a go no go date?
He hasn't. We don't have that yet. You know, with the hotel, it usually was 3 months before the show, so we're not at that point yet. You know, I mean, a number of years ago, Gary and I put that show together in less than a month because, you know, there was somebody trying to buy Capitol Audio Fest, and there was negotiations going on up until a month before the show, and they finally dropped out, and Gary was able to get a show together. Hopefully, it won't be like that this time, but you know, we'll probably within the next 3 months we'll have a go no go date. Uh, this is an unusual situation, and we're going to have to accept the fact that this is an unusual situation, and we need to stay positive and hope for the best and maintain distance and wear our masks when we go outside and try to convince our children to do the same. That's what's going to matter when the numbers, when we get 90, 80, 75% of the people vaccinated, and if the positivity state gets down to 2 and 3%, then the state will open up. But people have got to do the right thing, and they're not right now. We're not doing it. Again, it's not Maryland; it's all the way across the country.
Well, what about the vendors? Because the attendees is one group, but if the show goes on and there's not a lot of vendors there, that's going to affect the show, right?
Well, yes, and right now, all the vendors are positive. Like I said, all the large meeting rooms are rented. VAC is going to be back. I talked to Mark Schneider. The LTA is going to be there. Greg Roberts from Volte and Gary Dews from Border Patrol. They're planning on coming. LTA is going to have 3 or 4 rooms. VAC is still keeping the big room. I know that Klaus and Robin Wyatt may not, because they're doing Expona and it's going to be hard for them to turn around. But that's just the ones off the head. I'm sure Tenacious Sound will be back with 3 or 4 rooms. What's his name? Shane. I can't remember his last name. So everything is very positive, except, for the state of Maryland. We just have to get the state open to the point where we can have a meeting, because obviously people will not come if unless they know they're safe. And the hotel is going to be giving out masks if we're still wearing masks, or people who want to wear masks. We don't know this far out yet. Within the next 3 months, we will know. We will find out. But it's in a positive direction. That's all I can say. The main focus is obviously Pacific Audio Fest, because that's the next one up, and then after that will be Expona. Expona just kind of dumped on Gary, and that will affect things going forward. But Gary is, he's positive about the whole thing and wants to have a show. So, and we can only hope.
TBA.
I want a show. I'm sure all you guys want a show, and it's nice to have one in our backyard. We feel pretty privileged to all the work that Gary and the volunteers do to put on that show. So let's hope, but it's up to the state, That's all I can say.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate the update. So yeah, that's we could just stay tuned, and I guess probably by like you said, in 3 months there will probably be a go or no go, and we'll see from there.
Yeah, it's up to the public to do the right thing, And right now, it doesn't look like people are. It's all across the country. It's not only Maryland. It's and the rest of the world too. I mean, the United States is in far better shape than the rest of the world. I mean, you can imagine what Brazil must be like right now, or countries like that, where there's just absolutely no government help whatsoever. I think this problem is going to be around for a very long time, and whether we can get back to some normalcy in this country, I was just down in Georgia, in Savannah. Every store says you must wear a mask to go in, but they were not enforcing it. Half the people were wearing masks, half weren't. People are not getting it. I don't quite understand it, but they're just not getting it. And I just don't understand why this was a problem. I mean, all you guys, I know you guys have probably been very careful and wear masks when you go out or not go out. I mean, I have a friend of mine that hasn't been out of his house since last February, and that's the extreme. I'm careful. I go out. I go to the gym every day. I go to the grocery store twice a week. Been vaccinated. But now, even in Connecticut, there were 600 cases of people vaccinated caught COVID. And there was another 400 in some other state I read. So, that's curious.
Did you hear it on Fox News or a real news channel?
Real news channel. So, it's who knows. I don't watch Fox. You know that, David.
I know. That's why I like you. One of the reasons.
I mean, if I want to be entertained, I'll watch Fox News.
Yeah, it's not even entertainment for me.
Not anymore, no. But
All right. Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. We'll stay tuned. It'll be interesting to see about the Pacific show, because that's not that far away, and it'll be interesting to see how they react out there as far as
it's less than 10 weeks away, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking to Lou, see if he wants to do another YouTube chat, and he said wait a couple of weeks the last time I talked to him, and it's about that time to give him a call and see if he wants to go online with it, because there were a bunch of rumors that the show was shut down, and he went on Facebook and said no, everything's going forward. And Gary, again, Gary's part of the Pacific Audio Fest also, and he said that everything is same thing. The rooms are rented, everything's going forward, but again, it's going to be up to the state if the state will allow it. But Seattle, the state of Washington is another one of the states that the numbers are high. New cases are high. So, people are being very selfish and going out there and just doing their thing, and they're just not thinking about other people out there. And wearing a mask has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the people around you, and people are just not getting it. They're just not getting it. Huh?
You familiar with Darwin's theory?
Yeah. Well, that's the only positive thing out of this thing, that we'll get rid of most of the idiots in the world.
Any luck.
If we're lucky.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Let's move on. The thing for us to do now is, support the musicians that are online. There's more music online now. A lot of it's free. Some of it is subscription. The Ein Dime Musik up here in Baltimore, they have live performances. It's like $5 to watch a live performance. That's what you need to do right now, is support the musicians, listen to music. All the vendors that I've talked to are doing extremely well. People are updating their hi-fis, their home. The business is strong. The industry is strong right now, and that's the one positive thing out of this, is that the industry is not like the restaurant industry, unfortunately, but the audio industry is very strong right now. And I talked to Greg Roberts. He's got orders for the Raz speaker that's going to take him all through the whole summer to get built. My friend Gary Dews gets 3 or 4 orders per week on his little DAC. That's still selling like crazy. I talked to Mark Schreider. He says they've never been busier at LTA. They're just pumping out equipment as fast as they can. So that's a positive thing.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. We'll pick it back up on the agenda.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate all the updates. Any other comments with regard to the shows and that sort of thing? Nope. Chris, comments?
No, I have no comments. Paul said it all.
All right, cool. So let's move on here. So in light of all this stuff, with the pandemic and everything, obviously, that curtails, a lot of the stuff, currently that we used to do as far as our big meetings and everything. So, we've set up the YouTube channel and, we're relying more on the web stuff and the virtual meetings and that sort of thing. But I still, want to sprinkle in a little bit of live thing like we did in February, where we did our 3 listening sessions at my place. And so we're able to get a little bit of live feel to it. We had some appetizers and beers and stuff like that. So
I thought that went very well. I'm going to step on you for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Having 5 or 6 people, or you had 9 at a time. That was, maybe you need to cut it down a little bit. But I felt comfortable, and I thought it went very well.
Yeah, I think there were 7 at that second session, but there was a couple of hanger-oners who hadn't left yet. So on the last session, there was only 3 or 4 people, so it was like, could sit anywhere. So yeah, I thought it went well too. So in light of that, and then also because of the significant number of our members who are into vinyl, and a couple of people at that meeting said, well, it would have been nice to be able to play some vinyl in that setup too. So decided that we would do something that would reflect our vinyl community. So I wanted to set something up maybe every few months, this vinyl nights thing. And so we'll do the first one at my place, and it'll be a similar kind of thing. 2 or 3 different listening sessions where we pick an album, play it, cut by cut, and then have some discussions, and there'll be drinks and appetizers and that sort of thing. And of course there'll be bring your masks and stuff like that. And and a number of people who've talked to me about coming have said they've already been vaccinated as well. So we're going to do the first one April 24th. Like I said, at my place, and it'll be we're using a Rega P2 turntable, Pass Labs amp. I haven't determined what Phono preamp yet. One of the dealer members may want to provide one or whatever. And then we have the MoFi special edition of Pink Floyd The Wall. And we'll try it out, we'll get together in these little group settings, with mask and all that kind of thing, and at least give those who want to, get out a little bit a chance to, hang out a bit and listen to some music and, do it on a smaller scale of what we normally do. So beginning of the week, I'll put it out there for the invites to try to fill up the slots. So and then yes.
Yeah, what cartridge are you going to use with the Riga?
I don't know. It comes with that, whatever it comes on it. I'm not a big fan of it. I like the P2. It's got a great arm and a pretty good motor, but the cartridge is like, I was told that it's actually an Audio Technica that's about, that costs like $18. So it's okay, but I don't know. Jose said he might fix me up with something better. And then Matt's also has the VPI player that he said that I could use. I might set something up with that as well. So, but one of the 2 turntables. So, and then, I'm sorry.
John, why don't you score a HANA B for the cartridge?
Yeah, I had a HANA on the player when I owned it. Matt's, which one was that? Matt's fell asleep. So anyway, I don't remember. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was the high output moving coil. It's like $400.
Yeah, I've got I forget which one it was, but it's $400. It's something that people might be interested in.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a little bright sounding. It had a little bit of that Audio Technica punch to it, but it was okay. I've got a Grado G1 or a G2 Plus, a vintage one actually that's in pretty good shape. I'm not even using that. I like the sound of that cartridge. It's one of the original ones. So, but anyway, I wanted you guys also to, from heretofore come up with some ideas of some other vinyl as well, that we could do. I just threw that one out there because I had acquired the album and I like the sound of it, and I like the the songwriting in the wall is good. Roger Waters is, sort of paranoia and all that kind of stuff is all contained in that. I think it's a good album to discuss besides listening to, and great musicianship and all the rest of it. So after that, we'll probably do a jazz or a classical album. So I hope some of you will join us on this and hang out a little bit and have a little fun. So appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? All right, moving on. What's the next one? Can't see. All right. We want to get into our hands-on report. Chris, I'm going to let you start on that for the gear that you wanted to talk about, which included the kind of an update on the Parker Audio Puffin, the $500, less than $500 Phono preamp with all the adjustability. And then you were going to say a little bit about those revels that I heard at your house a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, well, I have my whole agenda as usual. It's really filled out. So if everybody is willing, I can probably got at least 30 minutes of gear to go over.
Sure. Yeah, and
then just yell at me if it gets boring. I mean, these are things that I think are interesting, but if you want to move on, just let me know. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, move on.
Oh. Dave the comedian. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go into present mode, and I've been told from early tests that I can actually play back music now, so everybody will hear that too. So I've got some cool music, a shorter music segment this time because I've got so much other stuff to talk about. So I'm going to move quickly but excitingly. So let me get me geared up here, and I'm going to click over here and share and go up to the top of my first item. Okay, so we should be seeing all the webpage about Square's title acquisition. Everybody seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I thought this first segment, there's a lot to report about in the streaming audio space, which I think is very interesting, and I thought I'd like to bring everybody up to speed, because so many people are streaming their audio now. I think quite a few members, from what I can tell, that's their exclusive way of listening to music. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, it may or may not have escaped your notice that Tidal has been acquired. It was originally or early owned. It's by Jay-Z and a consortium he's involved in. Although I think it was originally started, I think it's in Sweden or something. I can't remember. It's somewhere over in the Scandinavian area. But anyway, the company Square has bought a controlling interest of Tidal in March. And if Square doesn't mean anything to you, this is the Jack Dorsey's company. Jack Dorsey's the guy that runs Twitter. You may know about Twitter. That's always in the news. So this is one of his companies. Square is into micropayments, and basically it's kind of a PayPal for business. If you have a store or something in online or offline, you probably use the Square software and backend to do a lot of transactions, and they're really good at microtransactions. That's less than a penny or small transactions, Bitcoin, all that good stuff. So it's not clear exactly what's going to happen here, but Tidal, it's no secret in the streaming business that very few musicians make very much money. You could stream 1 million streams of a song and get like a few pennies payout, as a result. It's only, the very top people maybe that are getting any kind of significant payout. So it's not terribly profitable. And Square thinks that they can monetize musicians much better through their system, and maybe through doing add-ons like merch sales and all sorts of things. It remains to be seen, but there could be changes afoot here. But Tidal is for audiophiles, of course. Tidal along with Qobuz are the two biggies as far as streaming what we consider audiophile quality. CD or better quality. So this is going to, you watch this space. There could be some changes afoot. The next thing I'm going to bring up here, I think just to put everything in perspective here, is this nice graphics here that shows exactly how many people are actually streaming some of these services. I don't know if this will be a shock to some people, but The big kahuna in audio streaming is Spotify. They're way out there. Apparently, they have this is a fairly recent update. At least 144 million, I think, paying subscribers. They're way out there. There's some people. I think China has some also. Maybe Tencent over in China. They may have some pretty big ones. But Spotify is right up the top of the list. What much lower, of course, is then Apple Music coming in at about 68 million. Amazon apparently about 55 million, and then I don't know what this other one is. The ones in black are the audio streaming ones, and then Sirius, amazingly, the satellite, they have 34 million streaming, so that's not too bad. They've got a built-in base, though that makes sense, I guess, to some extent. Then it's a long drive down here, and you see that you got Pandora down here at about 6 million. XM actually owns Pandora. They bought them not too long ago, so. I don't know if you lump them together. Something that's interesting, you don't see Quobuzz or Tidal. I've heard that Tidal has maybe a couple of million paying subscribers. It's pretty low. I don't know what Quobuzz has, but I'd be surprised they have much, if as much as Tidal, and probably less because they haven't been around as long as Tidal. So just kind of put it in perspective. This thing is very fluid, and you can see by these numbers what's going on. So I think that's very interesting. Moving on, speaking of Spotify, Spotify has announced that they're going to be bringing CD quality audio to their streaming system. So they're going to do 44K 16-bit apparently sometime. Nobody knows the exact details, but that's been announced. So that's coming. So that'll be at least then, I guess at least 4, Amazon, Quobuzz, Tidal, and now Spotify, that you can get at least CD quality or better. So that's something to look out at. In Quobuzz news, I thought this was interesting. Frank Zappa, one of my faves, has now, his estate, I guess, is a licensed high-res streams to Quobuzz. So if you're on Quobuzz, you can get Frank Zappa in 24-bit audio. So if you're a fan, or maybe you're a new fan, you might want to check out. I mean, Frank Zappa was one of the most original American composers of the 20th century. There's just no doubt about it. If you look at the breadth of his music, his orchestral stuff is just amazing. He was influenced by Edgar Varese very heavily. In my mind, he's right up there. So if you've never checked out Zappa and you have Quobuzz, you might want to investigate some of that on Quobuzz. And then finally, in streaming news, I thought this was an interesting news update. Radio Paradise, one of a long time streaming radio channel, is now partnered with MQA, and Blue OS, I guess, is an exclusive there. I know some of the people have Blue OS devices, so you can get MQA via Radio Paradise. So if that's something, the MQA gives you, it's kind of a streaming FLAC amalgamation that allows you to get, supposedly very high-res stream in a fairly compact container, and then it gets unfolded and all sorts of good stuff. And more components are really supporting it now, because apparently MQA is fairly popular in China. There's a streaming service over there that supports it. So you're seeing a lot of devices from people like Topping and SMSL and all sorts of people supporting it. So if you're on Blue OS, check it out. Radio Paradise is a really nice stream. It's just basically a live radio channel, but they have really good curated music. I would liken it kind of to the old WHFS in eclectic choices of music. It's a good listen if you're looking for something to listen to if you haven't checked it out. So that's the streaming news. Maybe I'll pause for a second, see if anybody has any questions. Okay. All right. I will then move along to the next topic, kind of as a transition from streaming to hardware. And thought I'd point out, I know there's a few people here, LG, the large Korean manufacturer of just about everything from dishwashers on to TVs, has dropped their telephones. They are no longer going to be selling or making cell phones. why is that interesting or not to audiophiles? Well, some of you know, if you remember way back in the dark ages when we had meetings, I actually presented a LG phone as an audiophile device. LG was the only phone maker ever to actually put some effort into their audio section of their phones, and they included Sabre DACs, ESS Sabre DACs, in their phones with a decent amplifier, and I think they were one of the first to actually support MQA as well. Actually, they obviously had a headphone output, and was popular among audiophiles. John Darko was a fan. I think John Gatski ended up getting an LG phone. I think I remember selling a phone to Dave. Maybe he may still have his phone. So I had one as well. So it's kind of sad to see. And John Darko did kind of an interesting video here you might want to watch about it. And he kind of points out that for the most part, everybody just ignores the audio in phones. It's kind of sad, but true. And I don't know. It's an end of an era. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I own one, a V20. I've owned a couple of them, and I just bought the last new one I could find for $100. It's a Verizon one, brand new, sealed. So I'll be able to extend use of that a few more years to use it as a phone, because it's a great phone. It has a 24192 DAC and a 2496 stereo A to D with those built-in mics. You can record pretty, as you pointed out in your demo years ago. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, there's nobody else out there that has that kind of quality of audio. Although all Android phones, you'll still be able to use the USB out.
Of course.
Via OTG, you can connect them to external DACs. But yeah, that one was good. If you used it with USB Audio Player Pro, even with DSD, it would through the program, through the app, it would convert it over to 24176.
Yes.
High-res PCM. I played all kinds of DSD out of mine using the headphone amp.
Yeah, you did many demos. We used to have live demos, and you would stream right from your DAC into $1,000 DACs. Exactly. Well, sad days, but life moves on, and there'll be other things. I actually have a few things coming up that maybe will appease us a little bit in the cell phone audio world. So sad to see it go, but maybe you might want to, if you're interested, you could pick some of these up on closeout or something. If you see a deal, you might want to take a look at that. Okay,
hey,
moving on.
Can I ask a quick question for the people? I continue to use an LG V30 for all these same reasons, and I love it. What was the last model that they released in this series? Do you all know that one? Is it the V60?
60. Yeah, it's very expensive too. It hasn't come down hardly at all. But after the V30, there's no more user replaceable batteries either. It's a sealed battery.
Yeah.
On my V20, I found a 10,000 mAh battery, one of those thick batteries. There's tons of batteries available for it. It will run under normal circumstances almost 4 days of just general use with that big fat battery. If you don't get on the internet with it or anything, it'll go, if you just use it as a player or other apps or whatever, it'll go like 5 days.
Yeah, it might be smart if you think you want to pick one up, because these could be like, things get kind of fetishized in the audiophile world, and this could quickly become a kind of a badge of honor to have one of these as an audiophile. You might want to get the one that you can take the battery out, because then that'll really guarantee that you always have a longevity on it. As the batteries wear out, you can just replace them.
Yeah, I think maybe some of the older ones are actually better. The thing is, if you want to actually continue to use it as a phone, then with the newest one, I mean, you may have updates at least for a year or two ahead of you if you're going to actually use it full.
You could root what's called root them and put the latest ROMs on, but that's only for the really fearless. But if you want to go that route, you could burn a ROM and put it on and get the latest updates and stuff. But I've got a V20 knocking around still. I'll hold on to it for a while. So
newer phones also support more frequency bands as carriers acquire them. So there's an advantage to newer phones.
That's That's the paradox or oxymoron or problem. Moving on. Hot on the heels of Oh, here we go. Hot on the heels of last month's KEF announcement with their as the KC62 that we all talked about. SVS has come out with their own micro subwoofer, coming in at the very attractive price of $799, $800, and looks to have some very nice features. It's a dual. It's a sealed dual woofer subwoofer. Different design, of course, from what KEF was up to, which did some very amazing things. But this thing is a very small and getting some interesting, good reviews out there. It looks like it actually comes with an app. I don't think the KEF actually comes with an app. I may be wrong. They have their KEF app, but I don't think they have a dedicated sub app. I may be wrong. John has the thing. I didn't get into that. He can tell us. But if you're still in the mood or looking, considering your ideas about subwoofer, yeah, I think 2.1 systems are really quite the rage now and very viable. And this could be another, comes in white or black, so it could be very wife friendly and all that good stuff. And if you really want to get that low end in your system, these devices will do it for you. So I think SVS usually comes to our shows. They have in the years past, I think. So maybe they'll be there again. But it'll be interesting to hear what that's all about. Okay, here's something to kind of appease our loss of LG. This just happened this week, or just was announced, or is THX, venerable audio company. They're responsible for a lot of audio stands. I guess they grew out of George Lucas's monopoly or whatever, and they when he had Star Wars and was trying to establish better theater sound and that kind of stuff, and they've set a lot of stands. Well, they've come out with a THX Onyx. It's one of these USB-C dongle DACs for your phone or computer. It's pretty much anything with a USB port. The thing that's cool about this incorporates the THX achromatic audio technology. This is the THX AAA78 chip, which is similar technology, if not the same technology, for example, that Benchmark pioneered with their AHB2 amplifier, which is still the world leader in lowest distortion, quietest amplifier on the market. So this device also has, this Onyx here has an ESS 92818 Pro DAC in it, and apparently it also supports MQA. That's what it looks like. I got some more pictures here. Let's see, you can see it better. I got excited about this, so I actually jumped on it, and I actually have one coming. It was already shipped from Hong Kong, and will be coming hopefully very shortly. I've gotten shipping confirmation, and I'm kind of excited about it. Actually, let's see here. My standby audio science review actually had a scoop. They put out a review just this week on it, so they had it very early on. And much to my relief, because I kind of, as I said, jumped very quickly on this. They already have gotten reviews and it has 108 synad. That's the combination of total harmonic distortion plus noise in the Audio Precision test suite. So to put that in perspective, you can see the chart here. That's very close to the best that he's tested. The best desktop DACs, things like from Mola Mola and some of the topping DACs, have synads of over 120, something like 120, 121. So for something that's a dongle that can plug into your cell phone that has this kind of performance is truly remarkable. And apparently, according to his testing here, his conclusions, this thing really was able to drive his headphones very well. He tested with the Ether Drop headphones and the HD650s, and it has a very powerful amp, and he could drive it very loud without distortion. So this I'm very eager to test this out. Maybe we'll have to try to demo this live sometime down the road. But this could be, it's $200, $199, so I don't consider that's cheaper than the like the Audio Quest latest one. What's it called? The Cord or whatever it's called. It's like the Blue Cord or whatever. I think that's $300. So, and I don't think the specs are quite as good on that one, and it doesn't support MQA. So, I think this is kind of exciting. I think it's just phenomenal. You know, you get a cell phone, a DAC like this, and you've got the a USB Audio Pro, as John mentioned, on your cell phone. You've got the the audiophile world in your hand. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So be on the lookout for that. As I said, I hope to have one soon. So I'll give maybe a report on it on the forums. Any comments?
The bar chart there.
What? Yes.
Just to the left of that is the LG GQ ThinQ, which is right here.
There you go. Oh, John. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that just shows you, doesn't it?
Just shows you don't need a dongle. You just got to have the right phone.
Well, Dave is absolutely right. He's nailed it as usual.
Chris, you remember also I gave a report back in the last year about the Ibasso, the $90 or $100.
Yes.
Plugs in with the OTG. That's a AKM DAC that supports. I don't think it does MQA, but it does support up to 24,384 and DSD up to double speed. So there are a number of those products out on the market, and it has a decent headphone output. It's not high end, but it is a little better headphone amp than what's in, say, the LG V20. It does sound really good. The only problem I found with it is it's fragile. With the case on two of them, the case came apart on them, so I don't know if they beefed that up or not. But it sounds really good, and it's not that much money.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of choices, and this chart shows that I think anything in the green area or the blue area, you're getting audiophile sound, and as Dave pointed out, you just have to buy the right phone. So there you go. Cool. All right. So that's that just showed up out of the blue. I wasn't on top of that. It just kind of showed up in my radar screen. Okay, moving along. I just thought, I'm very, let's see, it's taking a moment here to load here. The good old folks from Ice Power, the B&O spinoff, and some of you know that I'm a fan of these amps that have come out with a couple of new amps, the 400A2 amp. This thing is tiny, tiny, tiny. It's like a deck of cards. It's ridiculous. Now, you have to have an external power supply for this, which is different from previous Ice Power amps, but even still, the specs on this thing are pretty amazing. It's what are the let's see what the okay. I don't want to subscribe to you here. Here we go. Yeah, outpour. This is 400 watts. Into 4 ohms. You can go into a bridge mode, 800 watts. You can do a pair of these. It's pretty insane, and I'd say the synad of this, from the specs that I can check, which is I can use a converter for this. This basically will come out to, it's being the mid 90s synad, so it's pretty good for an amplifier. Certainly very quiet and low distortion. So yes, of course, this is a Class D amplifier, but it's just yet another. I would expect you to start seeing a lot of products featuring these new models down the road. In fact, there is one shipping manufacturer that I know of right now, this company called XTZ. Some of you may have come across this. They specialize in making Class D amplifiers, so they've got one with these chips already, and it's a little over $1,000 apparently for a stereo model. So you might want to keep that on your radar screen if you're looking for something like this, very powerful Class D amplifier. Okie doke. Moving along quickly, I have on the screen here the Revel M126BE speakers in silver, and I am happy to say that I have a pair of these in-house. I acquired them at the end of last year, but just got around to actually getting them set up in my living room. And I have, after about 2 years of trying to wring every ounce of performance out of my Magnapan LRS, I have mothballed them for a while, not getting rid of them, just kind of mothballed them, kind of archived them, and have now switched over to these as my living room presentation. And I invited John over for an early listen, and so he'll probably chime in with his thoughts. But these are phenomenal speakers. I don't know if I've never encountered these in the wild. I'm sure there's somebody around town that must sell these, but I don't think I've ever seen them at any of our shows for some reason. And Revell has quite the reputation. These things have a beryllium tweeter with a very interesting wave guide, which is pretty important in in speaker design. And the woofer is ceramic coated on both sides. So there's a lot of technology going into these. They have floor stand as well. I have the bookshelves. They're not large speakers. In recent memory, I have not heard a speaker put out such quality tone of instruments. The piano sounds like real piano. I mean, piano is a very difficult instrument, as everybody knows, to reproduce. And these really do it for me, at least. The piano is just amazing sounding. The wall of sound and the imaging of these things is really just blowing me away. I know I sound like a fanboy, but I'm just rather amazed that such sound can be available in such relatively modest-sized components like this. And so I'm really rather excited. Now, I had to radically kind of rejigger my environment. I've got these literally almost halfway out into my room. I decided to just go full Monty and get as far away from walls as possible. Even with being far away from the wall, the bass performance of these things also is astounding to me. I've been playing with subwoofers with my LRS and stuff, so I know what kind of bass performance I can get in my room. These go to, I'm getting usable output into the 40 hertz area, 40 to 50. I think they're rated down into the 50s or something. I'm playing, I have songs that I use for testing that I know have 40 hertz signals in them, and I'm hearing very good output in that area. So, and I'm way away from the wall, so that's amazing as well. So if you have a chance sometime, or maybe I can have small visits from people as they want to hear these. These are you should try to hear these sometimes. Just maybe they're not your cup of tea, but you might want to just hear what they're all about. John came over. Maybe he wants to offer a few words.
Yeah, they sound great. I mean, they sound much bigger than they are in size. They're not, they're kind of a typical size bookshelf speaker. I've reviewed a number of Revel speakers over the years since about 2012, 2014. So I've always thought they were a sleeper. Their big tower speakers are very well regarded, and they were kind of like some of the first speakers that were, made in China, but were of really high quality. So yeah, they sounded great in Chris's room. He played a lot of different kinds of music, pop music, jazz, classical, and for a small to medium room, for a lot of people, this is all you would need. Good bass, good balance, a lot of detail, a lot of width, and spatial properties with the speakers. Very impressive.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll say, Chris, are these acoustic suspension? Is that the enclosure?
It's a ported design. Yeah. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Okay. I see the port on now.
Yeah.
Not going to get bass without a port in that size speaker.
Yeah. We're still dealing with the laws of physics. So there are, but it's amazing with some of these materials now. What people are able to do. I mean, there was a post on our forum recently, last night, I think, from Tom, about his setup with his egg speakers. He's got everything dialed in, and he's using tweeters that are made of beryllium as well. And he was going on about that. And these are my first speakers, I guess, that have beryllium, and I don't know. That seems to be a pretty special material. It's a very expensive material, apparently, to work with. I guess I should say these are not cheap speakers. These are $4,000 speakers. List. If you shop around, I spent a year shopping for them, and I was able to score a pretty good price on them. So you can acquire them for well less than $4,000 if you are patient and are willing to shop around. They're pretty neat, pretty special, I guess I'm in my honeymoon phase, but I'm kind of in love with them right now. If it's okay to be in love with a hi-fi component. So
Yeah.
anyway, so if people are really interested, let me know. We could arrange some kind of listening thing as well. Okay, I guess that's all. I was going to say, I haven't even hooked up my sub yet. I have a sub ready to go. I know how to get that going. I don't really feel the need right now. Honestly, I'm getting plenty of bass out of these. But if you want to pair that with a rel sub, for example, that would work very well to get that last, between 40 and 20 hertz. Fill that in. Then you'd have, I think, at some point I'll try that out and see what it sounds like. I expect it to be pretty amazing. Okay, moving along. Just thought in the DIY news here real quick. This is something, unfortunately, if you're hearing it now, you've already missed it, but I just thought I'd quickly mention good old Nelson Pass keeps giving back to the community. And an announcement went out about a week ago from the DIY audio store that's hooked up with this, that they are releasing 500 kits or something. No, I think it's 180 actually. It's only 180 kits of the Sony VFET amplifier that Nelson has designed. I guess Nelson apparently, if you watch like the Steve Guttenberg videos, likes to collect amplifier MOSFETs and all sorts of components. He has a whole stockpile of things that he likes to buy. And I think this is coming one of his stockpiles, and I guess he had 180 or something, and he did this design, and it had some kind of lottery system. You had to log in it between 15-minute window a couple of days ago. I decided I got enough on my plate and I didn't pursue it. But maybe you'll be able to pick up one, or somebody who doesn't want it, you might be able to grab one sometime. So if this is something that really excites you, go over to the DIY store or go over to the DIY audio forum. There's a whole thread on it. It's about 1,000 pages already, so you can go gab about the awesomeness of Nelson Pass and his amplifier designs. Okay, someone before we got started here was Brad. I guess it was curious about the Tone 2 Pro. I mentioned this in a forum post. This is the follow-on to the popular Codis tone board that I think a number of our groups used. I think Dave did some interesting modifications. He was able to add some outputs and stuff to power up his system. And this is a very cool DAC headphone amplifier, MQA decoding, and even something called a balanced RCA output. You can actually get true balanced output out this. You have to get a special cable from them. And it's $200, and I've got one. I just haven't gotten around to playing with it. But initial reports are that it's another winner for them at that price point. Again, another portable type device that is fairly amazing. So that's the Codis Tone 2 Pro.
Hey, Chris, before you go,
go ahead.
Before you go,
Yep.
Before you go on, I've never dealt with balanced outputs. Will it work with just regular RCA outputs?
No, that's the thing. This thing's a bit of an outlier. I don't know where the page is, but this thing has, apparently they've got a patent on it. They have devised their own, let's see if I can find it, their own, balanced is typically a 3-pin connector. It's used in studios and more in hi-fi equipment as well. Here is the adapter you have to buy. You have to get it from them. It's $49. But basically, the idea of balance is basically to avoid grounding issues and that kind of thing, and it's a more rugged connection than a typical RCA connection. I mean, in most hi-fi systems, the utility of balance, since typically the runs are very short, maybe, overblown, but, more and more people like to go to it just, again, to avoid any kind of, hum problems and other kinds of things that could crop up. But this thing, as I said, they've developed their own, I can't seem to find a picture of here, of the design, but basically they've come up with their own way to use an existing RCA plug, but it has 3-pin connections in it. So it works if you don't have a balanced connection on this thing, you can use just standard RCA plugs, but if you have their special adapter like this, you can actually get true balanced signals out of this thing. That's the way it works. So I don't know if this is going to be a one-off or, it'll become, more popular with other manufacturers. That remains to be seen. It's a curiosity at this point, I would say.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so moving along, the last bit of hardware here. I don't know. I may have be overstepping my bounds and people getting sick of me talking about this, but quickly, John thought it was worthwhile mentioning again. But we've had a good discussion in the forums about the, I call the mighty Parks Audio Puffin, the mighty Puffin, this amazing, I think, Phono preamp, which has I call it the Swiss Army knife of Phono preamps. I mean, it's basically, the crux of the situation is this digitizes your phono output from your cartridge, and then once it's been digitized, it applies all the RIAA equalization and allows you to do some amazing things while it's in the digital realm, and then you can either output in an analog fashion back to, so it's doing an A to D and then a D to A conversion, or you can go digital out of this thing and hook it up to your favorite DAC if you want to do that. So you have those options. And what's very cool about this, it's this guy, I think it's Sean Parks. It's just a one-man operation based in Seattle. He's made phono preamps. I think he made something called the Budgie or something, which was a tube-based preamp many years ago. Basically, he's committed to, once a year, he puts out a software update. And it's not just kind of a software fix. He actually is adding new features to the product. So there's a beta firmware out there already that I think should be released maybe any month or any week now, with brand new features that he's adding into this. And I'm going to maybe let another member here, if he's willing to speak up. Mark has been testing the new firmware. Mark, would you want to speak to the Puffin? Hello?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I got one of these a while back, and it was just before they added the digital output. And Parks Audio has done a really good job of providing its users with easy updates. They had directions for adding the digital output to if you bought one of these things before it was added, and were handy with a soldering iron, you could add your own digital output. So I did, and it works great. But I think you pretty much explained it. I think, Chris, it's just very versatile. You can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. One of the things that I've had a lot of fun with, and some other users on our web page, the DC Hi-Fi group web page, have talked about this, have used it for doing things like doing azimuth adjustment, which is kind of a black art a little bit, how to do that. But it offers, you need a test record, but with a test record in hand, you can play with the angle of the arc that your needle hits the record, the azimuth. And it gives you a digital out, it just gives you a direct output, a number that you can, how many decibels separation you're getting. You can tweak it. And so people have talked about how, getting these very remarkable numbers, much higher than sometimes what the manufacturer even offers. And it makes it fairly straightforward to do that. It's fairly easy using the software that he's offered. It also has, now it offers a feature that lets you check the frequency response of the cartridge. And that's something I've never thought of doing before. It's not that easy to think of conceptually, how you get the frequencies into cartridge and measure the response rate. But with this setup, if you need a test record that has the bands with the different frequencies available on it, but there are such test records. And it just gives you a straight digital output. You set it to the first band is 1,000 hertz, and you set that, and it assumes that's 0 decibels, and then it just goes as the frequencies come through. The device tells you what frequencies it's seeing and what the response is in decibels, and then you can plot it and see if your cartridge is performing the way you thought it was. As I think a lot of people are probably going to be kind of shocked at how their cartridges actually perform. But one of the useful things is you read a lot about setting loading for cartridges in terms of the impedance or the resistance that the cartridge is feeding into, or the capacitance of the cables and so forth. And you can tweak it. Manufacturers suggest recommended loading features, and you can tweak it. But a lot of people sort of do that sort of flying blind. This device lets you see the results of such tweaks. You can see what kinds of response, particularly at high frequency, where you're getting roll off and so forth. And you can adjust it to make it as as close to as flat as you care to spend the time to fool with. So and there's some other features too that you have to look at. It's really quite it has a device that lets you that times the amount of time that the needle is on the record. So you can time how long your stylus has been running for, which I find very handy. I've thought of that as an idea before, but this actually produces. I have a little timer, mechanical timer, and every time I put my needle on the record, I'd push the button, for one play, and then I would assume that each album is exactly 45 minutes and multiply, the number. But I was always forgetting to push the button, and I couldn't remember had I started it or not. And some records are not 45 minutes. So this device, it gives every time you start it up, it just tells you, okay, your needle's been on a record for 400 hours or whatever, and then you can decide when you need to replace it. It's a very clever device. And finally, the last thing I'll say before I'll turn it back to you, Chris, is the audio quality. I have it set up with it digitizes the cartridge input. It also works with both moving coil and moving magnet cartridges. And then I have it going to my DAC. It has both an audio and a digital output, but rather than going through a couple of iterations of digital to audio and back and forth again, I have it going straight to the DAC. And I think it sounds quite good. It sounds as good as when I started using this. I've never gone back to my analog preamp after this because of the quality. I think is quite reasonable. So I like it. It's a lot of fun to play with. If you're into vinyl, it gives you a lot to work with. And
Mark,
that's all.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was an excellent report. I appreciate having another person because I know people get wary of just hearing one person yammer on about something, but I think you've really taken advantage of a lot of things. You published some really good graphs and put them on our forum. So if anybody hasn't seen what Mark posted on our forum, it's really instructive. He talks about the azimuth adjustment. I don't think you can set azimuth by eye. I'm convinced of that now that I've played with this and listening to our Peter Lederman when he talked about azimuth. You need a device like this, or there's other devices out there, and so just getting the azimuth right is just huge. I'll just add a couple quick other things. I've been recently playing with the mono features. This has the ability to switch into mono mode, and not just mono mode, but you can actually choose either left or right channel. So, in mono, both groove walls are the same. And so, one groove wall could actually be quieter than the other. So you have that choice. I actually have some records that were my older brother's records of, I was listening to Out of Our Heads from the Rolling Stones, an original mono copy from back in the day. Now, this thing was not cared for particularly well, and if you looked at it, you'd say, well, this thing's not going to sound that great. It's clean and all that. I've cleaned it, but it's been heavily used. It's virtually quiet through the Puffin. I was literally astounded. I thought I was listening to almost a new master release because this thing, with the ability, the way it handles the mono, and I could choose which channel, I was rather astounded. And plus, the Stones they were on London Decca, and I chose to one of the. It's got like 20 RIAA curves built in that you can just switch through if you want. And I decided, well, let's try the London curve for a change and see how that sounded. So I could dial that in. And be in mono mode. And then I've got highlighted on the screen, if you can see here, it also has this thing called Magic, which is actually a pop and click reducer that it has built in. It's a very subtle, it's not detectable, it's not overdone like some things have been. Sean Parks is very low key about it. He didn't try to go for the moon and get every single pop taken care of. This thing really does make records sound a heck of a lot quieter. And if your records are already quiet, then I probably could fool people and think they're listening to digital in some cases. Others, there's a little bit comes through, but it works. It works, and it works very well. And then, as Mark was saying, there's all sorts of tilt and adjustments. You can even apply tube-like second harmonic or tape third harmonic type distortion if you enjoy people like second harmonic distortion. I'm not going to argue with that. The thing just keeps getting better with these updates. The final thing I'm going to say about this, and I'm not going to argue. I mean, people think analog should be analog, and analog should be all the way through analog, and I'm not going to argue that. That's fine. I've got dozens of analog phono preamps from very cheap to very expensive, so I understand that. The thing I'll point out, though, is we live in an increasingly digital world. I just talked about streaming audio. I think most people stream audio now. That's becoming the norm. It's all digital. Pretty much everything is digital. And for better or worse, pure analog is starting to become more and more of a niche. I think this product is great with the digital output if you already have like a digital system. Let's say you have a new DAC that you're using as a preamp and it doesn't have analog inputs. This is a way for you to do vinyl, without having to, set up yet another preamp and that kind of thing. So I think that's cool. And also, the reality is a lot of the records being produced today, even audiophile records, have digital sources. A lot of some of the Beatles stuff that was reissued, the Led Zeppelin, you take whatever you want. A lot of records that are being pressed today actually were sourced from digital sound files. Not all of them. Some of them are still analog all the way through, and that will always be the case. But we live in a very mixed environment. I think digital is the norm now. Again, I love the mighty Puffin. That's all I can say. It's a cool product. I'm shocked that no one else in the industry has attempted something like this. I mean, this guy is just a one-man band up in Seattle. You would think all the brains out there in the audio industry would have kind of stumbled upon this, but no one else is making a product like this that I know. If you know of it, tell me, please.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes.
So is that Magic pop reducer kind of similar to Sugar Cube? And
no,
is this?
No, it's
okay.
Not. It's not at all. The way I understand the Puffin architecture, and there's actually a very good podcast I could post that interviews Sean Parks, where he really gets into the nitty-gritty of the computer stuff that he does with this. This is, make no mistake, he's doing some hardcore programming in this. This is not a trivial kind of hobby thing that he's done. He's basically put together using what's called ARM chips, which are the same type of chips that are in your cell phones or in your iPads. They power the world basically now. He has an ARM chip, the DSP in this thing that he's programming at a very low level, and he. I can't remember the details, but he came up with he figured out a way to do this pop and click reduction using this approach that he has, but it's not the Sugar Cube and all that they have. That's completely. I don't even know what the architecture is. And as far as I was looking at their site recently because I wanted to refresh my memory, all they do is the pop and click stuff and and then they do digitize the files as well. I think that's one of their things if you want to digitize your collection. But as far as I know, they don't do any RIAA digital digitization. They do all. They have some products that have RIAA preamps in them, but I think that's all in the analog domain. Correct me if I'm incorrect on that. But so I'm really surprised. If anyone was going to do something like this, I would have thought they would have done it. But they don't seem to be at all interested in doing what Sean Parks is doing with the Puffin.
Yeah, the other thing, thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask is, would you consider the Puffin a step-up transformer?
Well, it has complete ability to adjust for any cartridge pretty much under the sun. I'm highlighting here the gain settings. It goes from negative. You can even actually use line level inputs. If you don't have to use it as a phono, you can use it as a line. It's basically a preamp. You can go from CD at -4 dB all the way to 72 dB of gain for a moving coil. So you have that wide a range of. So the step up is basically give you a gain step up. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah.
So just say one more thing. Yeah, it'll work with moving coil cartridges. But it's not literally a transformer. It's electronic. It uses electronics, not a transformer.
Yeah, it digitizes it. Yeah, it's all done in the digital domain.
Yeah, but that feature, the magic pop correction, click and pop correction, works very well. As I understand it I think I saw that video that Chris is talking about. It's on their manufacturer's website, and it's very subtle. It only acts if it detects something it identifies as a click, and then it attenuates that to some degree. And so that means if you had a record that was clean, that didn't have any clicks or pops, it would do nothing. You would hear no difference. It would be completely passive. It's only if it detects something that it identifies as an extraneous noise, a click, does it come into play and do some kind of attenuation trick. And it's fairly subtle, but it works pretty well. Now I've gotten into the habit. I've used this now for a couple of months. I just sort of leave it on, because on the theory that it's not going to do it. If the record is clean, it's not going to do anything. And, of course, most of my records aren't that clean. But
well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. I leave it on all the time too. I find it completely transparent. I'm very happy with it. As I said, I think I could fool people and think they're listening to a digital playback with some of my records that are already pretty good. It's that thing. I guess there's I think there's a 30-day trial on it, so it's pretty low risk. It comes in at the base model is $489. If you want to get, I would highly recommend getting one of the digital output ones. It has analog and digital, so you can switch between the two if you're going to go for it. And with the yearly updates, I mean, it's a slam dunk, I think. So,
Chris and Mark sort of mentioned this very briefly. So, how do you feel the sound output is compared to your best analog preamps, or the ones that you like the best? What about the sound? What can you tell us briefly about it?
Well, I think it sounds great. I don't have the words to quantify how it sounds, but I would say with my best preamp, which I think was a pretty good one, this.
What was it, Mark? What was the model that you were comparing?
It's called the Mark Brown Omatic 10,000. I built something I built myself, but I put a lot of time and effort into it, into making it quiet. And this is, I never turned back. I've also compared it. I've used this. I run it into a DEQX, one of these sound speaker digitally driven devices. It's a DAC all combined into one. If you're familiar with that. And it also the DEQX unit has its own analog input digitizing for this purposes, and I think that this sounds is good. It sounds, I guess that I would just say this: it's completely neutral when you play it. It doesn't add anything to the sound. It sounds as good as I think your record is. It's neutral. It doesn't add or subtract anything from what you're hearing. It's the best way I could try and characterize it.
Yeah, I think Mark, just to follow up with Mark, I think he's dead on. I'll just, you want comparisons. I have a lot of turntables. Everybody knows that. I've got a lot of preamps. I've got, in the same system that I have the Parks Puffin, I have my PS Audio Stellar preamp. That's been a very highly reviewed preamp. It's an excellent preamp. I enjoy it. I don't listen to it for the most part. I listen to the Puffin. All I want to do is listen to the Puffin because everything that this thing does, my point about this is it does more for optimizing the phono playback system than any other phono preamp I've ever owned. I can get my azimuth right. I can dial in, the mono thing. I can dial in the air and the tilt. It's got the magic pop. It just does a lot for me, and really, I listen to a lot of digital. My system sounds fantastic with digital. I want analog. I've got records that have never come out on digital. I want to hear them as great as I can. I have a few test discs that I always put on. I have this. It's called the LA4. It was a Nautilus recording. It's a direct disc. It's Lorenzo Almeida on guitar, and this is direct disc, so it cuts out. It sounds fantastic through the Puffin. It's got it's a jazz. It's kind of jazz like Jazz at the Pawn Shop. If you know that record, was an audiophile favorite, and it is in your face. This recording, the drums sound like the drummer's in my living room. The dynamics are there. I think I said on our forum, if you said put a proverbial gun to my head and said, okay, Chris, you got to have one. You can only have one preamp. This is going to be the one I'm going to choose at this point. It's because I don't think none of the other products I own do as much as this one does to let me get the most out of my phono rig. That's it. Does that help?
Definitely.
So, try it for yourself. That's all I can say. I mean, I know I'm probably way overselling it and stuff, but I appreciate Mark chiming in. He seems to be having some good success with it. I don't think it's a big risk. Approximately $500 in I guess a 30-day.
Chris, John Gatski. I just wanted to say, when I was over at your house a couple of times before, you played a number of cuts from whatever turntable using the Puffin. I believe you were using the Soundsmith cartridge.
Yes.
And I'm pretty critical, and I would have to say that I confirm what both of you were saying, that it was not a euphonically colored kind of sound. It was a very precise, very accurate, but the tonality of the LP record was there, but it was very clean, very dynamic, and great presence on the drum cymbals and things like that, acoustic guitar strums. I thought it sounded way beyond $500 if you wanted to quantify it in terms of money.
Yeah. Appreciate that, John. Okay, well, there's three people. I tell you, I'm sure I bored a bunch of people, so I'll move on. But if you want to go onto Amazon.com, you can buy it there. Apparently, you can only buy the analog out one there. If you want the digital, you got to buy it direct from the website. But go on Amazon.com and look at. There's like 1,500 reviews of this, and I don't think there's one bad review. Everybody just raves about it there. So read all those reviews.
Before you move on.
Yeah.
Why do you think that they limited the DAC output to 96 and they didn't go any higher?
Well, actually, on my model, my output is because I bought it with the digital direct from him. At the time, I only have 4824 out of mine. He modified it and now has 2496. Well, it comes down to the components he's using and the technologies and stuff. And I don't think, frankly, if you talk to someone like, what's the guy's name? The guy that's, I can't remember, the AIX, Mark somebody, I can't think of, he has the book out on digital. He once said to me, or I read somewhere, he said that basically the dynamic range of an LP is about 12 bits. Okay, so realistically, if you look at the dynamic range of an LP with the noise and all that kind of stuff, I think you're talking about maybe 60 dB, John, or something. I mean, it's not, it's not CD level.
It depends on the vinyl. Most of the designers think that 2496 is plenty of resolution for even the highest quality LP, but I think I wouldn't have a problem with 2496. In fact, most of the time when I do dubs, I do it at 2496. I don't do it at 192 or 352. It takes up more room and it's unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got the Nyquist way above human hearing, the setting. bigger numbers aren't always your friend, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but it's a good piece. I really like it. I think and I'm amazed like you that somebody else hasn't jumped on this, or one of the majors to come out with a product as complete as this. And I guess maybe because of the the digital phobia among vinyl files, but I would have no problem running that in my system on a really high-end cartridge.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I'll shut up about the parks for a while now. You've heard enough. So, okay, I'm going to zoom through this. I promise. 2 minutes, I'll be done here. Just a small little plug. My DIY Hi-Fi Life channel is plugging along. I released a second video on my HW19 turntable upgrade. It's kind of interesting. I found out some very interesting things about vibrations and turntables. If you have any curiosity about turntables and what makes them tick, you might want to actually tune in. I actually discovered some interesting things I'm kind of excited about. So you can subscribe to those on YouTube if you like. Okay, real quick on the music. I want to mention an artist I'm really jazzed about, and she is a jazz player. Her name's Yelena Ekimov. She's I think Russian-born. I think she's based in North Carolina. Pianist, she just put out a brand new album called Adventures of the Wildflower. She is a fantastic jazz pianist. I have a number of her recordings. She plays with a lot of people that are on the ECM label. She's not on the ECM label. She's on her own label, I guess. But a lot of her recordings remind me of ECM. Errold Anderson, if you know that name, is a very famous ECM jazz bassist. Put out tons of album on ECM, the German ECM label. If you like that kind of jazz, she did a duo record with the great Manu Katché, the great drummer who's worked with Peter Gabriel and Sting and has his own records on ECM. Highly recommend checking her out. Fantastic pianist. I discovered her just in the last couple of years. Okay, my Bandcamp recording of the month is, and I'm going to play some of that for you right now, if you can hear it here. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. Can you hear that? It's pretty quiet. Yep. You hearing that little stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, it's very, very quiet. Yeah. Brand new album by Pharoah Sanders and someone that calls himself Floating Points. And English kind of electronic producer with the London Symphony Orchestra. Just came out. There was a big write-up in the Wall Street Journal this week. This is very contemplative, Zen-like, Eno-esque music with the famous Pharoah Sanders of John Coltrane fame. He was a colleague of John Coltrane and Alice Coltrane. He's 80 years old. This is a beautiful sounding album. If you're looking for something just to kind of sit back and zen out, this could be your ticket. You can get it on Bandcamp. I just ordered a vinyl copy from Amazon. They might be sold out of the vinyl, so I may or may not get that, but you can certainly get the digital files for $10 from Bandcamp. So let me forward here. See. There we go. Supposedly, according to the wiki, Ornette Coleman called Pharoah Sanders the best tenor saxophone ever. That's high praise. So if you're looking for some neat, cool music, check that out. Okay, and this is the Wall Street Journal article. If you would like to read that and don't have access, can't get it, I'll send you a copy. Just ping me, send me a message. As I said, here's Pharoah Sanders, been around. He's 80 years old, member of John Coltrane's group. And saxophone described him as probably the best tenor player in the world. That's pretty nice. Okay, second album, real quick. I'll play some of this. Okay, a bit different. This is a new album. It actually came in October, but I just discovered it in the last month or so. From Till Bronner, a German trumpet player that I'm rather fond of, and Bob James. Now, I have to admit, I'm a bit of a music snob, I'll admit it. I have never been a Bob James aficionado. I always thought it was a little bit syrupy. I know he has a lot of fame, but his last couple albums, he put out an album called Espresso a couple of years ago, which I thought was excellent. And now he's teamed up with Till Bronner. Let me cue that up. I played this for John when he came over, and I think he thought it sounded excellent. If you like Steely Dan, that kind of thing, this is up your alley. This album is incredibly well recorded, and you can get high-res downloads like from Quobuzz. If this record doesn't sound good on your system, you need to have a look at what your system's doing, because the piano is, I think, exceptionally well recorded. John, do you have any comment?
No, I like it. It's okay. Smooth.
This is my reference recording of the month. Even if you don't like the music, hate the music, take a listen to it just to hear what real instruments sound like in your system. It's basically a trio or a quartet, I guess, trio, trio or quartet. Anyway, whatever it is, it's fantastic. There's some vocalizations. Till's a pretty good vocalist, I think. It's a great record. I think it's very well done, and it's worth checking out, especially on the streaming services. So that is my audiophile pick of the month. And finally, I'm sure everybody's very happy, I wanted to report on local music. I don't know if anybody saw that in-person concerts for Baltimore Symphony are going to start up again for the 2021 and 22 season. Marin Alsop, who has been the conductor for 14 years, is stepping down in August, so they're looking for a new conductor. But I take it as a positive sign, along with what Paul was talking about with the audiophile shows. Hopefully sometime in the latter half of this year, going into next year, we can actually go to hear real live music again. And with that, I'm turning it back to John.
All right, Chris, thank you for all the info there. A lot of good stuff and good discussion. So I really appreciate it. So I'll just get in. We've got another 20 minutes or so here. I just wanted to get into some of the stuff here with regard to some of my music picks for the month, and then we can open it up to some of the members. Let's see, where was I? Let's see. Oh yeah, my recording of the month is, I don't have it set up to play. Let me find it. I know it's here somewhere. Oh, here it is. My recording of the month is actually 5 albums. Kenny Burrell, first 5 original albums for Blue Note, recorded by Rudy Van Gelder. $21 for 5 albums. Includes a live set. It's introducing Kenny Burrell, album number 1, album number 2, Kenny Burrell from '56. Blue Lights Volume 1, 58, Blue Lights Volume 2, 58, and On View at the 5-Spot Cafe. Most of them are mono. I think there's maybe 2 stereo in there. These things really, really sound good, and it's he's just an amazing guitar player, and he was a young layer, 28, 29, and just an incredible performance. He played from his early days, he played a big Gibson Super 400 jazz guitar, huge guitar, but he plays it great, and he incorporates into the bop jazz and stuff like that, a lot of blues licks. So anyway, that's my recording of the month. I found it on Amazon and I found it on eBay. I ordered it from England because I got it $3 cheaper, and they even gave me free shipping from England. I think I got it for $17.99 or something like that. So a great disc. Let's see, the other disc of the month. What was it? It wasn't a disc of the month. Let's see. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about was there's been a lot of discussion. I got it recently into getting a bunch of Steely Dan recordings, and I had a number of versions of Steely Dan Asia, which I still think is the best Steely Dan in the recording in the jazz era. I like Gaucho. I think Gaucho overall sounds better, but I think the song selection on Asia is much better. And I started looking into it, and there have been various reissues over the year, but there's a lot of kind of controversy about it, which one is the best. And it ended up, there's been the original CD, and then there was the USA version and the Japanese version from '84, and then there were some other versions, from elsewhere in the world that were dubbed, and of course the LP came out in '77, and then Mobile Fidelity did one in the '90s, and then there was a box set that Glenn Meadows in Nashville did that included the entire album. That was, I think, in the early 2000s. And then there was an SACD from Japan. So there's a lot of different ones out there. And the recording was never as good as, say, Gaucho was. And some of the issuance of this were done from original masters. Some of them were copies of masters and that sort of thing. So I started listening to a bunch of these, trying to determine which one I thought sounded the best. And really, the original LP probably has more kind of high-end kind of air and that sort of thing. But of the digital ones, I think it ended up that the original USA CD release, which is it's actually pretty famous in audiophile circles. It's MCAD 37214 DIDY 55 Made in USA edition, is considered probably the most balanced of all of the Steely Dan recordings. I have the Mobile Fidelity, and they EQ'd it a lot, so it's brighter. And sometimes on some cuts I like it better, but on other ones I think it's too bright. The box set done in Nashville with Glenn Meadows, that version, I think that one is kind of like the Mobile Fidelity. The SACD that was done in Japan, it was like $60 or $70. I think they even EQ'd it even more, and it made it even more brighter. I don't like that one at all. So I vote for that one. So if you guys have Steely Dan Asia somewhere, check it out. Because apparently the CDs that were issued in those first couple of years in the early 80s, they're not all from the same source, and so this one is considered the best one. And it was kind of actually hard to find one because I didn't have this particular one, and I had to go through some collectors because the price has been driven up on this particular one by audiophiles who claim that this is the best one. So I finally found a used one though for $4. So there you go. I actually made a dub of it, and I upsampled it to 24.352, which is what I normally do with the CD stuff. So if anybody wants that, let me know. You can have that or a copy of this one. But it's interesting to compare them all and decide which one you like the best, because on some cuts, some albums are better, and on the other ones, the other issue of it sounds different. But the LP, the original LP, is still pretty good, and I think there's a Mobile Fidelity LP too. I don't know if any of you guys have that one, but anyway, any thoughts? What's that?
I have one still sealed.
The original one or the Mobile Fidelity?
Mobile Fidelity.
Oh yeah.
Original release through Mobile Fidelity.
Yeah, I had that CD. Yeah.
John, real quick, since you mentioned Asia, if anyone's interested in the nitty-gritty of the recording of Asia, there's a very good YouTube channel by a man named Rick Beato. He's a record producer down in Atlanta, has a very big channel. He puts out excellent videos on recording. He does a lot of like what makes this song how great. So he'll cover all sorts of pop songs and famous songs, and actually show you the chord progressions and stuff. So if you're really into the music, it's a fantastic learning place. And he's done a great video I just watched recently on Steve Gadd's drum solo in the song Asia, which is a landmark drum solo for a pop song. That people literally flipped out when they heard that song and the drums solo. That it's actually multiple drum solo that Steve Gadd performed. Apparently he did it in like one take. It's if you're into drums at all or not, it's Nothing like that had ever been heard on a pop song. It's absolutely amazing. So you should look up the video.
Yeah, he improvised that too. Yeah, there's also the video on YouTube that was done 7 or 8 years ago of the making of Asia when Becker was still alive. That's actually quite good, and it talks about Gad, and it talks about all the different musicians that he brought in for that, and it's pretty impressive. So it's just the thing about the recording is that. It actually, at least on the digital releases, it doesn't quite sound as good as the way we remembered it back then. And that's why I got into this search for trying to find the best sounding version of it. And I didn't realize there was all this controversy about it because Steve Hoffman, him from his former, he also did a remaster of it in the early days, and also I forget the other guy. The other guy did a digital. It was early digital, and they did a digital dub of the original mixdown masters, and then some stuff was taken from that, including the Nashville box set that was done. So, but it's just interesting how you always think that there's a version that comes out and that's the one, and it ends up that there's a lot of history to it, and they can sound different and all the rest. So. Anyway, so if you guys have it, it might be a fun thing to compare and see what you guys think of it, because I like the '84 release overall. I think there's a balance to all of it, but some of the stuff was to me a little dark in the top end. The mobile fidelity is a lot brighter, and on some cuts, I like that one. Dave, do you have a duplicate copy of that mobile fidelity LP that you've listened to? Yeah. Yeah, because I've only heard the CD, which was taken from the same tape that they did. So the CD sounds pretty good, but it's bright. So anyway, let's see. Moving on from that, I had a couple of other things. Let's see. I have one giveaway item left. I think I've given away 3. All right, I have a Led Zeppelin. Speaking of reissues for vinyl, it's 180 gram, the reissue Jimmy Page supervised Led Zeppelin 4. First one who responds on the chat vinyl file gets it. I'm sure somebody will. Ali got it. All right.
Good for Ali.
Ali, your brother won the Can't Stand the Weather.
I know. I told him that he won it. He didn't know, and then he
see it in the thing. Yeah, because that was from the membership, the first wave of Renew It. Yeah. So that thing's like $130 or whatever.
Amazing. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, put it away in a safe place, and it can fund your retirement. That's what Jose did with the Santana one step. He's going to retire on the Santana.
Yeah, well, apparently this one is really good. I mean, this one's sealed. I haven't even heard this version of it, but it's already, there's just a limited number they're going to make. So yes, so we'll have to hook up here somewhere along the line, or if you come over for the listening session.
Yeah, right. I can bring it for the listening session. Okay.
Okay, cool. Let's see, and that's about it. So we're going to open it up next week for the listening session. I'll put out invites to whatever. There'll be, 6 people. I was going to do 2 sessions. If there's enough that for a third session, I'll have to move it a little earlier in the day since it's a double album set, but I'll do it. So I'll put out that info next week. The other update I wanted to tell you about was that I think we discussed this before, that Ted Libby, the classical music critic, is kind of winding down his career and retiring, and he is donating to the DC Hi-Fi group his 12,000 classical CDs. So Dave and I are going to be dubbing them over because in exchange for donating them to us, he's would like digital copies of it. So we're going to fill up a drive for him, so I'll have those. But anyway, it'll be fun. And then we'll have to figure out what we want to do with the the collection, where to store them, and all the rest of them. We'll probably be sharing a lot of these with members if they want. We'll once it all gets dubbed and everything, we'll have a catalog of what everything is. But I've already got the first batch of his box sets, and there's some really rare ones in there that were critic only. Special box evaluation sets and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good stuff, and a lot of composers, composers that aren't the popular composers that are quite interesting. So over the next few months we'll be doing that.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Dave, if you don't mind me asking, how long will it take to digitize 12,000 CDs?
How about that, Dave?
Dave is going to be reincarnated.
We probably have quite a few of them already, although
I would think so. I would think you would have some of the typical ones. They're a good portion. You probably say 1,000, maybe 2,000, maybe.
Who knows? But even so, there's a program. There's a couple ways to verify that what you've already ripped is actually accurate.
Yeah.
So that takes time, even if we already have it.
Yeah.
After I verified it once, I don't have to do it again. I would guess a year. I mean, the ripping goes quickly. The problem with classical, for me, is that because so many composers are mixed on one CD, I want to be able to say, okay, I want to see Tchaikovsky's On Again, or Eugene On Again. Where is it? And what I've done in Foobar is there's scripts that'll take all the composers and put them in one place, sort them all out, but it does it by tag. So if your tags aren't consistent, you get the same thing in multiple places. So I'm fixing what we already have, and I've made a lot of progress in that. But anything that comes in, I don't do the tags off the web. I go to what we've already got, copy them over so that the new stuff is consistent with the old stuff.
I throw out a quick idea. My mind is twirling here because an amazing collection. We might want to set up an account. Maybe we could set up an account, a DC Hi-Fi account on Discogs, which is kind of the definitive place, especially with classical, because as Dave's addressing the whole metadata issue with the composers and the versions and all that. Discogs has a phone app, and it actually has a scan function. So if it has a barcode, it might facilitate getting the metadata at least into somewhere where people can peruse. You can share, I think, your collection via Discogs in some way. So it might be, if we're going to make this a group thing, it might be an interesting adjunct. I don't want to add any extra work, but if you use a phone with a barcode scan thing, it might go relatively quickly in that regard.
Well, that audio copy goes out and gets all the metadata. That's no big deal. The problem is, for every disc, there's like 25 different ways to do the tags.
Right.
And every time you do a new disc, somebody does it a little differently.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Well, I'm just saying, so if people want to kind of just get an idea of what's in this collection, it might be a nice way to be able to share it, the metadata, just so people would say, oh, wow, I didn't know about that, or, I'd like to hear that. But I throw that out. It's just an idea.
I can do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
Foobar has a text utility where you can grab whatever tags you want and export it to a file.
Oh, okay.
Basically paste it into Excel or into a text document. So as they come in, I can publish that and keep that up to date. That's no problem.
Dave, does Foobar do espresso drinks as well?
It might. It does an awful lot.
I know. Foobar, the add-ins, I've played with it. The add-ins are amazing. I've actually come up, I found some cool ways, because I like to play around with multi-channel audio, and it was very helpful in I could rip Blu-ray music, and then it would come right, I could bring it into Foobar and export it, out to FLAC files. It was very helpful that way. Yep. Good old Foobar.
Hey, one more thing. One other disc, we just gave it away. I think Larry won it. I got, I don't know if anybody heard the remaster remix of Goat's Head Soup. It was done last year, I think, in the summer or in the fall, by Giles Martin, who also did the Beatles. And it's incredible because this was always a really good album, but it had a very muddy mix. And I've heard that, I think I own the 94 reissue and the one from the late 80s or whatever. And even the LPs weren't that great. And there are lots of layers of guitars that Mick Taylor plays that are kind of like buried and whatever. But this is really good. They also have the big box set with the Blu-ray with the multi-channel, just like they do the Beatles, and it also includes Amsterdam concert of '73 that it's been available in bootlegs and stuff before, so you can see that and hear that with that. But it's $100, $112. But the CD reissues, there's 2 discs. There's one with a bunch of outtakes. That's what this is. I think it's like $20, but it's incredible. If you're familiar with the album, you know the song "Winter" that Jagger sings, and a lot of people don't know that actually Keith doesn't play rhythm guitar at all on it. It's Mick Jagger who's playing a Fender Stratocaster, and then Mick Taylor is playing the leads, and there's Nicky Hopkins on piano, and then Wyman on bass, and what's his name on drums. But by that track, I can tell you, because I know that track very well, it's incredible how much more the lead guitar comes out in front, a lot more separation on the instruments. You can hear the drum cymbals, the piano, the tinkle of the piano. It's a much nicer mix. So Larry, you got a great disc, because I am very impressed with the job that they did with this, because it wasn't a particularly good sounding album at all. They did a great job with it, and in order to make it sound better, they had to go back to the original tracks and do another mix, because I think the mix was originally sloppy. Good songs, sloppy mix. So if you guys get a chance, pick one of these up. It's good. All right, that's all I have to say. So appreciate it, everybody. Greg, good to see you again, buddy. I see you growing out your hair.
I figured, I didn't need to spend money on a haircut, so it's been about a year.
All right, I have to come down and have a beer with you one day. I have to bring your CDs back.
Yeah, I'm going to be teaching college again, so I'm going back to academia and kind of like semi-retirement. So I figured the hair would kind of help with the professorial persona.
There you go, man.
Just need a tweed jacket, you'll be set.
That's right.
And the arm patches.
Yeah, you got it. All right, guys, I appreciate it. So I look forward to seeing you at the end of the month for the vinyl nights when you guys are coming over, and then we're going to have some other stuff. For the person, I think it was Larry, who asked me about the DAC roundup. There were some of the DACs that we expected in that we haven't got. We've got like 70% of the DACs, but there's a few more that we're waiting for. I'm hoping to get everything in so we can shoot this thing for the YouTube and do it by the end of May. And as far as somebody had mentioned to me the other day, you're going to have a summer party this year. I said, well, I can always have a summer party at the beach house, but I guess, it's with all the COVID and stuff going on. So I just probably have to say it's probably not likely we're going to have a big get together like we had in past years, just like last year we didn't do it. But, we still do these little happy hours. We've been doing them up here in North Bethesda or whatever, where we can get out in the tent and space 2 or 3 people apart. There's several of us who've done those. So, we'll probably announce one of those here since it's getting warm in the next couple of weeks for somebody who wants to come over and have their shots and their mask and stuff like that. You sit pretty far wide in that big tent and everything. Chris has been to one of those before, right, Chris?
I've come to several, actually. Yeah. I'm all for a happy hour. Just let me know.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Any other questions?
John, give me a call tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, I want to bring these first 2 boxes down to you.
Sounds good.
You want me to bring that? I'll bring the Prism down too.
Excellent.
All right. See you guys.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
Absolutely.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, I want to ask you, how'd you get the audio to play?